message letting them know they have access to this debate right now via live stream on 10tampabay.com. That's 10tampabay.com. This collaboration is part of our ongoing commitment to increase voter engagement and awareness in our community. Tonight's debate is also made possible by the partnership of the partner organizations of our chamber, the Greater Riverview Chamber of Commerce, the North Tampa Bay Chamber, South Tampa Chamber, Tampa LGBT Chamber, Tampa Downtown Partnership, Temple Terrace Uptown Chamber, Tampa Downtown Partnership, the Uptown Chamber of Commerce, West Shore Alliance, and the Ybor Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to all of our partners. I'm Dr. Bob Rorlach. I'm the President and CEO at the Tampa Bay Chamber. We'd like to thank the candidates and their teams for being a part of this debate tonight. And a special thanks to HCC for the use of this beautiful facility to, again, have our debate. For the audience here in person and watching on live stream, we want you to know that you will be able to go back and watch the full debate anytime on streaming platform 10 Tampa Bay Plus, 10 Tampa Bay Plus, which can be downloaded on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. Be sure to share that information with your circles of influence before Election Day. Be sure to vote. It's a great way to be informed and to look at our this replay and our website where we have interviews with the candidates and be informed on their positions when you do vote. An informed electorate is engaged and is part of the process, and that helps our region be the success that it is. And everyone here in person, if you could please silence your phones so we don't have any interruptions as we get going. Now, the format for tonight, this evening will be broken into 4 20-minute, 2-person debates featuring the candidates from Districts 1, 2, 3, and 6. The questions will be related to the Chamber's legislative agenda and current issues impacting our city and our region that fit within the Tampa Bay Chamber's guiding policy principles. At this time, I'd like to invite candidates from District 1 to go ahead and join me up on stage. Our candidates are Dr. Sonja Brookins and Alan Clendenin. Let's welcome them. As each candidate makes their way up to the stage, they will have 2 minutes to provide an introduction and then 60 seconds for closing at the end. The responses to each question must be answered in 1 minute or less, and in order to get as much information as possible out, we will follow that time frame strictly. Chris Yanes, our chairman for the Chamber's Transportation Council, is in the front, and he has a yellow placard indicating that you will have 20 seconds left to answer the question, and a red placard indicating you only have 10 seconds left, so please wrap up your comments at that time. Candidates, are we ready? Yes. Let's go. Dr. Brookins, you have 2 minutes for your self-introduction. Should be on. Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Sonja Brookins, and I am running for District Seat 1. I am a Tampa girl. I was born and raised here, and I've walked the streets of Tampa many, many times with my grandmother. One thing that I want to say is that she is the one that encouraged me to always think of community and have a passion for a community and serving the people that reside in the city. This is one of the main reasons that I am compelled to run for the seat. My platform includes incentivizing small businesses, the attainable and affordable housing, as well as having budgetary transparency and honesty. These are the things that I think are very important, and we know that everything that we select has an effect to it. I call it the domino effect. Housing affects transportation, transportation affects the budget as well as other things. So these are the things that I'm running for, and these are the things that I feel will make a great city as far as being progressive. Tampa is already in a progressive mood, and we need to keep it going, as well as offering equity and diversification. We need to catch up with the other cities that are the same size as Tampa, and we need to make it work and start being reflective of the people that we serve. I feel that the city council is not reflective of the folks that it serves, and I think we need to change that and get on the bandwagon and start doing things a little bit different. Okay, thank you.
All right, very good. Mr. Clendenin.
Good evening, everybody. First, thank you for the Chamber for hosting this evening, and for everybody that's going to watch it online. My name is Alan Clendenin, running in District 1. I appreciated walking down the red carpet. That's probably as close as this face will ever be able to do that tonight. I don't know if y'all see this as a red carpet up here. So that was a nice approach. You know, what's good business needs good government needs good business, and the people of the city of Tampa need good government and good business, and that's what I'm planning on bringing to Tampa City Council. We are all living in the same community. We're all trying to make a living in the same community, and I think what we really need the government that helps promote that, promotes the people, promotes the businesses here, and promotes employment and all of the wealth that comes along with that. It's an exciting time to live in Tampa. You just read Time Magazine or any of the other articles that you see. We are at the precipice of something really great here. For as long as I've lived here for 37 years, but I'm a Floridian. I grew up in Central Florida. We've always heard that Tampa's going to be America's next greatest city. Well, guess what? We're knocking on the door. And I think where we're going in the next decade or two, we're not just going to be America's next greatest city. We're going to be one of the world great cities. We've got all the components that's required to make a great city. We just have to have good stewardship and good leadership to be able to make that happen. And that's part of the adult voice I want to bring to the room. I want to be able to put this equation together so the decisions that are making now, I see a group of young people in the audience tonight, and hopefully there's more young people that are watching tonight, because the decisions we're making will affect all of us in this room, but it's going to most dramatically impact the younger folks that live in this community. So I hope they'll leave behind a better Tampa, not just for my children and my grandchildren, but for those of you that are young out here and you choose to make this your home. Thank you so much.
Very good. And our first question, I think, dovetails well into both of your introductions. What is your 20-year vision for Tampa, and what realistic policies do you propose to help us get there? Mr. Clendenin, we'll start with you.
Realistic is key, because you know one thing you'll find when you're running for office, you'll hear a lot of people pontificating about all these grand schemes and all these things they want to do. Yet, you know, we always have to approach this from just like you would in your business, or just like you would in your household. What's realistic? What's achievable? And what can we actually do today? What's part of a short-term plan and what's part of a long-term plan? Like I said in my introduction, we're right at the beginning. We're knocking on the door of what is really truly going to be great for the city of Tampa. And the decisions that are made by City Council on transportation, as an example, unfortunately, I was a huge proponent for transportation. I see some of my friends in the audience tonight. They were part of that initiative and from the very beginning. And oh my gosh, my time's almost up. Obviously, we're going to have to make decisions on transportation. We're going to have to make decisions on housing, realistic expectations on how we're going to provide workforce housing in the city of Tampa. And I just got the red card. Thank you so much.
Dr. Brookins.
Well, what is realistic for me is listening to the public with intent. I think we've gotten into a point where we've gotten on city council, we've gotten into these seats and we've forgotten to involve the people. Even though we're there for the people, they elected us, I feel that we need to give the power back to the people. We need to make the council more balanced. We all know that we have a plethora of men up there, and we only have one councilwoman. I think it makes a difference with representation and listening to the various voices. Alan is correct. The city is progressive. The city is doing great things, but there is so much more work that needs to be done. That card is throwing me off, I'm sorry. There is so much work that needs to be done, and my purpose to make Tampa more where it needs to be is just to start looking at various resources to get where we need to go. I'm sorry.
Very good. Our next question. What is the most pressing public safety issue facing the city, and how would you address it? Dr. Brookins, can you go first this time?
The safety, we know, and I always say community policing. We see it on the news from state to state. Community policing is not done equally in the same in different neighborhoods. We know that if there's a small incident And for example, Hyde Park, the police will handle the situation a lot different than they would in East Tampa or Sulphur Springs. So to me, the public safety is an issue that we really need to look at and start looking at the police department as far as their training. They do a good job, but there's more that they need to be done, as well as incorporating the mental health component when they do get the call. So we need to really address that issue.
Very good. Mr. Clendenin?
I'm going to take a different look at this, and yes, policing and what there's nothing that Sonja said is not incorrect, but the number one thing and the realistic thing that we have control over right now, and probably is more pressing, is the safety on our roads. It's our sidewalks, it's our children walking on the streets of the city of Tampa, it's the traffic congestion. You're more likely to be injured in an automobile accident in Tampa than you are to be shot in Tampa. Our current police and our administration is doing a fairly decent job of keeping us safe. I think you can go to bed tonight and rest assured that you'll wake up safe and sound in the morning. But what I can't assure you is when you drive home tonight that you'll be safe and sound on the roads of the city of Tampa, or when your kids go out to play in the city of Tampa, that they'll be safe and sound. And that's one of the reasons why part of my platform is roads. We're bringing it back to basics. What is government, what's the purpose of government? It's providing good roads, it's providing sidewalks, it's providing those infrastructures, the bike lanes. We need bike lanes in the city of Tampa. I know there's a lot of things, but remember, we're in the beginning of bike lanes, and I've got a red card, but bike lanes are so important, and as we build those out, it's going to change the face of the city of Tampa.
Well, it's no surprise that transportation has cropped up so quickly. But now we have a question from Joanne Sandoval, Catalyst Committee Co-Chair with Emerging Leaders of Tampa Bay. And Joanne asks, what is your view about the transportation options currently available in our city? Can all of our residents affordably get where they need to go? And if not, what will you do to improve transportation in our city? Mr. Clendenin, you go first on this one.
It's the number one thing. You're not going to attract good business until we have good transportation. And I don't know how many of you all drove here tonight. I know at least one of my friends took their bike here tonight. But we all kind of took a lot longer than we thought it was going to be. Again, you're not going to attract business until we do something about transportation. Unfortunately, we've been kicked in the teeth on transportation with the failure of all for transportation, but it doesn't mean we need to give up. There's lots of opportunities. We need to do the realistic things. We need to build out our bus infrastructure within the city of Tampa. We need to pick out our transportation corridors, which a lot of studies have been done, and we need to encourage growth and development along those transportation corridors. That's where we need to build out density, where we're planning on building, because density will come, transportation will come. It's something that's very needed. Mixed modal transportation, our administration and previous administrations have done a good job with that. If anybody is income eligible, there's an e-bike program right now that you can get a bicycle with a $500 subsidy from the city of Tampa. I encourage you to do that. But bikes, scooters, Uber, water taxis, rubber wheel track roads, and I'm done. I'm so sorry.
Dr. Brookins?
Transportation is the other side of housing. If you want housing to improve, you have to look at transportation. If I have constituents that come and talk to me all the time, and they have a home here in the city, but they have to go to Clearwater, and I've been a member of doing that in order to find a good job. So that creates a problem. I want the transportation to be so that if a person decides to work near their home, that they have the opportunity to do that as well. There's also an expansion of the streetcar, as well as reaching larger areas utilizing the bus system. We know that the bus system, the HART system, is limited in various neighborhoods, and it kind of puts an obstacle for those that want to go from, let's say, Wild Mama over here to downtown. So we really have to look at the route that we're taking and improve that.
Good. Let's continue with the transportation theme for a second. As you know, the recent Hillsborough County transportation referendum was defeated last November. What should our city, county, and region do next to find a dedicated funding source? Dr. Brookins, you go first on this one.
Well, I think it comes back to the budget again. We talk about finding resources that will help us to work with policy on a local, state and federal level. And I think we need to go back to that budget and start looking at what can we redefine and get these resources. We know the resources for housing. We should be doing that, and no doubt about it. But like I said, housing and transportation they're different sides of the coins, but yet and still they affect each other very closely. So I would say that just looking at the policies, going back and revisiting some of these old policies, and we know that the thing that they had with trying to get the tax for the transportation, we know that didn't pass, and I think we need to go back. I approved that when it did happen. Unfortunately, it wasn't voted into existence.
Mr. Clendenin?
Yeah, the trick question in there was the dedicated funding stream. I think right now there's a lot of opportunities. I believe the administration is going after a lot of these opportunities, but there's probably a lot more in state and federal grant programs to be the kind of the instigator of a lot of transportation options that we can put into play in the Tampa Bay. Keeping those things going, I think we just have to make sure that we get the job right from the beginning. We build out these transportation modes that will be able to be self-funded and not have to depend upon a recurring taxation from the citizens or from the users. So, but right now there's a lot of grant money. I mean, you know what's coming out of Washington with the infrastructure package that was passed. There's a lot of options on the table. We need to aggressively pursue every one of those options. I think that we could actually transform transportation in Tampa. I know the mayor's been looking strongly at several different options, and I look forward to being a part of that solution and cheering it on.
Good. Currently, the Florida legislature is in session. They're trying to determine what to do with over $600 million that was collected in Hillsborough County to go towards transportation. What would be the one thing you would say to the legislature on what they should be doing with that money? Mr. Clendenin, why don't you go first on that?
It's not your money, give it back. I'm honest to God, somebody walked into a store and sold a candy bar that, we'd call the police, but they basically are stealing our money. They're not giving it back. From what I understand, there's actually something happened in Tallahassee during this legislative period that they want to keep it up there for another couple of years, and then they want to put all these strings attached to it. It can't be used for this, can't be used for that. It's politicized into its presidential politics, and it's bullshit. I'm sorry for the language. But it isn't. It's money that needs to come back to this area. The needs are great. People paid into this pot of money from the taxpayers in Hillsborough County, and it's ours, and we should have a say in how it's spent in the city of Tampa. We should have a say in how it's spent in Hillsborough County and the other two municipalities. And I think everyone that's sitting in this room, everybody that's listening to that, should contact their legislators and call it what it is, BS. Thank you.
Dr. Brookins, what would you say?
Well, Alan, I'm not going to say a bad word. I'll be the good guy this time. But it goes back to transparency and accountability. This is where we need to put the power. I say the power goes to the people, but whatever goes on the local government should stay on the local government. We have control of that, and we should determine what we do with the money. This is something that our residents and our citizens earned, and they paid into this. And so I believe that that power should be utilized by the local government, and we should be able to use those funds for whatever we need. We are talking about affordable and attainable housing. Let's use those funds to help our city and stop using it to benefit someone else or package up someone else's pocket up in the legislative. We all need to work together and get it to the point and bring the money back home, and let's work with the money that we have already.
Perfect. Okay, our next question is about the economy. We have a question from Jeff Chernoff, the chairman for Leadership Tampa Alumni and a board member for the Chamber. Jeff asks, what role, if any, should City Council play in supporting the local economy, and how? Mr. Clendenin, would you go first with that one?
I want to revisit that for 1 second, and that's more theft that's happened in Tallahassee. It's Sadowski Fund for affordable housing. Again, people who bought houses here paid taxes. It was meant to be put in a pool for affordable housing. The legislature keeps sweeping it clean. The governor keeps sweeping it clean. We need to recoup that money. Please urge your legislatures to do that. Every level of government needs to be encouraging good business. As I said in my introduction, good government encourages good business should demand good government, and the people of the city of Tampa deserve both from both entities. Anywhere that we can make the environment for business stronger and healthier, we should do that, whether it's on city council or any other level of government. It's our duty and our responsibility to make that happen. Business brings jobs, it brings money, it brings economic development, it brings quality of life, and we can't forget that. Thank you.
And I'm going to need you to repeat that question. You
Sure.
threw me off, Al.
Sure. What role, if any, should the city council play in supporting the local economy, and how?
Oh, there's a big role in which city council should play in that. We talk about building Tampa, and we say Tampa is a thriving city. In order for it to get that, we have to meet with the developers in our partnerships in order to keep Tampa moving forward. So the role should be, like I just said in the last question, bring the power back to the local government and allow us to run our city the way it should be run, not based on what the state says, but based on what we see that is occurring within the city.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, let's shift gears. Let's talk about baseball. Do you support community efforts to keep the Tampa Bay Rays in the region? And if elected, what is your vision for financing a ballpark if Hillsborough County is the preferred location? Dr. Brookins, you go first on this one.
The Rays should stay here, bottom line. You know, we're a sports city, you know, let's be honest about it. And it does good business as far as allowing other partnerships to come into the city. And as far as the resources, I think we need to bring the experts around the table and let's see how we can make this happen. But the Rays need to be here along with our Buccaneers and everybody else. We're a city of champions. Why mess it up?
Mr. Clendenin?
You know, I would love to see the Rays, and I think it's a mistake if the ownership team decides to remain in Pinellas County because, you know, you put lipstick on, you know what, it's still what it is. They're not going to increase their numbers. We live in the center, the epicenter of a population based in the city of Tampa. Tampa has a rich history in baseball. It just makes sense to have it here. That being said, I would never be a part of a deal, a sweetheart deal like we have with the stadium just across the street over here. That really was a short end of the stick for taxpayers in the city of Tampa. But I would love to see, you know, a tax district that is fair, that is really a return on the investment. If the government can invest in these types of businesses and help, as long as there's a return on the investment, but the team has to come up with their fair share as well. If we can find up that kind of an equation, I'm all on board, and I think Tampa would be a great fit, the baseball would be a great fit in Tampa. So yeah, let's go play baseball.
All right, very good. Now a question on development. How do you balance maintaining the character of Tampa with the needs for development? Mr. Clendenin, can you take that one first?
Yeah, this is actually a kind of a keystone to my entire platform and what I started talking about when I first got in Tampa Council, is that, or it's council race, as these pendulums swing in development, we've seen a lot of development and it's been wonderful for the city of Tampa, but what we can't forget is what makes Tampa special. You know, Tampa is a very unique place. We've got this incredible airport that's in close proximity to our central business district. You know, we've got, as Sonja talked about, all these major sports teams. We've got a great transportation network, the natural resources, the river, the bay, proximity to the Gulf beaches. Everything we have is going for the city of Tampa. But we've also got these incredible neighborhoods, and that's part of what makes Tampa distinctive. I mean, not just the historical, you know, Latin Quarter, but we have these great neighborhoods like in South Tampa. They are we should cherish those just as much as we cherish every neighborhood, and it really is what makes Tampa distinctive, and we can't lose that.
Dr. Brookins?
When I think about the roof over my head, if it wasn't for the developers, I wouldn't have a roof over my head, so we have to face that. My problem is with developers is when it gets to the point of gentrification starting to occur in marginalized neighborhoods and we're starting to push families out of their element, that becomes a problem. So we can work with developers, but I think we also need to figure out those that mean the city no good, and it's all about profit making. Then we need to start establishing some type of fees to kind of deter that behavior. But we need developers, let's face it, but we need the developers that come in here and do what the residents want, not what they feel is needed at the point, but what they actually want without losing their historical value. Because Tampa is a special place. Each neighborhood presents its own historical access to it, and I don't want to lose that.
Very good. And this is our final question on chamber involvement. The Tampa Bay Chamber works diligently to inform our members about happenings in local government. Can you commit to provide updates to the Tampa Bay Chamber and to our members, and to work regularly with us to seek input and work on ideas to make our city all the best it can be? Dr. Brookins, you want to start that one?
Yes, I'm a big fan of the Tampa Bay Chamber. I've been a business owner, and so I know the ins and outs of what's going on. And this is why one of my platforms is about incentivizing small businesses. We know that Tampa was built on the backs of small businesses, and we also know that when a lot of corporations came in, it started to push those folks out. We don't need that. So we need to have a continual relationship and partnership with the Tampa Bay Chamber in order that we can still move forward without pushing anybody out of their elements. So yes, I do agree to do that and to be in a collaborative a position with doing that.
Great, thank you. Mr. Clendenin.
I spent 32 years in air traffic control, half of it right here at Tampa International, managing the radar approach control and the control tower, and guiding people home every day and having people that guide people home every day. But yeah, you depend on subject matter experts in your jobs, whatever your job happens to be. Mine was air traffic, but I'm sure that we could raise hands. We've got a diverse group of people in this room tonight. So subject matter experts are everything in business. And if you walk in the room, you think you're the smartest or the prettiest person. I never think that, by the way. I'm never the prettiest person in a room. But you're wrong. So you've got to depend on other folks. I look at y'all, the West Shore Alliance and EBOR and Downtown Partnership and these other groups. These are areas that are epicenters of development and growth, and what we've seen as part of what is taking us to that next level of one of the world great cities. What's happening there, and I'm going to totally be dependent upon folks coming in and educating me and bringing me up to speed with what's happening in your particular world, and so that I understand, and when I'm making decisions, I can weigh that with the code and what's needed. But thank you so much.
Good, fantastic. All right, now it's time for our 1-minute closing comments. Mr. Clendenin, you go first on that.
Yeah, thank you all again for having us tonight. It's 4 weeks from now. I think this is the last event we have, isn't it? That's on the calendar. I think so. Yeah. We're all tired, and it's been a long road. And 4 weeks is in a closing time, but I appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk to folks. And for those of the people that are watching online, I appreciate you plugging in and watching and listening to the candidates tonight. The people that you elect on city council are going to make decisions that are going to impact the city of Tampa for the next decade or two. We really truly are at a pivotal moment in time. We've been leading up to this, and now Tampa's going to spike. I mean, if we get this right, this is going to be the most amazing time in so many people's lives. It's going to be an amazing time in the city of Tampa. The decisions we make today are going to be so important. I pledge to not look back and think, man, woulda, shoulda, coulda. We're going to turn Tampa into the city that it deserves to be and make it good for all the people that live here.
Terrific. Well, Dr. Sonja Brookins and Alan Clendenin, thank you both very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry
I
about
yield
that.
my
You're
time.
1 minute.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Again, my name is Dr. Sonja Brookins. I've been an educator. I've been a nurse. I've been a doctor. I've been a small business owner. I know how to deal with people, and I know how to come up with solutions. I'm not one that's going to make promises. I'm one that's going to say I'm willing to work with the other side, and we're going to come up with a solution. So it's about creating experts. When I was a soil and water elected official, I had to come together and bring Democrats and Republicans together, and we had to come up with something that was going to be environmentally friendly and also increase green space and the tree canopy program and things of that nature. I've dealt with the issues that impact Tampa, and I'm asking that you go to my website, sonjabrookins.com, and see what it is that I can do to improve our city. I want to be on that ticket, and you're running with the winner if you do that. Thank you.
All right. Now, Dr. Sonja Brookins and Alan Clendenin, thank you both for being here. We greatly appreciate your time in joining us today and your willingness to serve if elected. Thank you very much. Let's thank District 1. That concludes the District 1 debate. And now at this time, I'd like to invite candidates for District 2 to join me on stage, Robin Lockett and Councilman Guido Maniscalco. Let's welcome them as they approach the stage. And as they approach, a reminder, each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide an introduction and 60 seconds at the closing. Responses to each question must be answered in 1 minute or less. Chris Yanes in the front row, chairman of the Tampa Chamber's Transportation Council, will wave a yellow card indicating that you have 20 seconds left and a red card indicating you have 10 seconds left in your answer. Candidates, we ready? Let's go. Okay, Ms. Lockett, you have 2 minutes for your introduction.
Hi, everyone. My name is Robin Lockett, and I am running for Tampa City Council District 2. I was raised in Tampa. I attended Tampa Bay Tech High School. Go Titans. I've worked in the community all my life, and I've volunteered within the community. Currently, I am an organizer by trade. To be a great organizer, which I tend to think I am, you have to be a great listener, a communicator, great partnership, understand resources, and in order for people to follow you, they have to believe in you. The issues that I am running on, but not limited to, is affordable housing, accountability, and water quality. We still have a housing crisis. No joke about it, and that's going to be for a very long time. We need to take this time to really think about what we're doing, not just for right now, but for the future, right? Just for the future. We have an opportunity to really make changes that benefits everyone, not just a few. Accountability to me means that City Council is the check and balance for the administration. The community is the check and balance for City Council. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So it's very, very important. I believe in community engagement. I believe that the community has a voice, and I want to be that person to bring people back to politics. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Councilman Maniscalco, you have 2 minutes for your introduction.
Thank you very much. My name is Guido Maniscalco, and yesterday I lost my voice. So I hope you can understand me. It's been an honor to have served you on the Tampa City Council for almost 8 years. I'm born, raised, and educated here in Tampa. I attended HCC right here and their other campuses, and I graduated from USF. Go Bulls. My priorities on the council moving forward are, number one, to address our affordable and attainable housing. We are in a serious housing crisis here in the city of Tampa. Number two, investing more in our public safety as our population grows. I look at departments like the fire department, and if they have enough staff, updated equipment, and enough fire stations and coverage to accommodate and serve the people of this community. And number three, balance between all the growth that we're experiencing and protecting our beautiful and historic neighborhoods. So I'm going to stop there because I'm going to save my voice as much as I can. Thank you.
All right. Okay, let's see. Ms. Lockett, I'm sorry. You didn't answer that one. Excuse me. Let's move on. Our next question, sorry about that. As you look at equity in our community, how would you help lead the city's efforts to make changes in policies, systems, processes, and approaches to close the equity gap? Ms. Lockett, go first on that one.
I think opportunity is key, right? Whenever you have to close the equity gap, people have to have the opportunities that are not afforded to them. Different programs need to be provided. Education needs to be offered also. But I think affording opportunity to different individuals is very, very important in regards to closing that gap.
Very good. Councilman?
So when we talk about equity, there's a couple of things. We talk about growth and development in the city of Tampa, but it's not equitable across the city. The seat that we're running for is citywide, so we represent everybody. However, you go to South Tampa, you come to West Tampa where we're at now, and people complain there's too much development. They may or may not say that, depending which neighborhood. But we're not focusing on other parts of the city that have been ignored. East of the interstate, East Tampa, communities like Sulphur Springs, communities like Jackson Heights, so on and so forth. The focus has been in other parts of the community, from downtown South Tampa, West Tampa, and beyond, but a lot of the city has been ignored. And we need equity across the board so the whole city rises up. With all this new development and opportunity, we need to make sure that everybody experiences and enjoys this renaissance. Thank you.
Okay, continuing with that vision discussion, what is your 20-year vision for Tampa, and what realistic policies do you propose to help us get there? Councilman, you go first on this one.
So in a 20-year plan, first and foremost, we have to address the housing crisis. And what I would do is look at our land development code so we can build our way out of this crisis. So we can look at building more accessory dwelling units, for example, looking at parking minimums, reducing them, eliminating them where they affect development so we can build more of that housing supply. Looking at that middle housing that's missing, allowing for more duplexes, triplexes, and beyond. That is number one. Second, as I mentioned earlier, investing in our public safety so that we have public safety coverage, police, fire, across the board to accommodate and serve the growing population. I think that, along with the investments in infrastructure that we're doing with pipes and stormwater, we will get there. Thank you.
Ms. Lockett?
Could you repeat the question?
I can. What is your 20-year vision for Tampa, and what realistic policies do you propose to help us get there?
The 20-year vision, I think housing is the one of the main issues, along with transportation, because they go hand in hand. Just as Councilman Maniscalco just stated, being able to look at the zoning codes, offering triplexes, duplexes, ADUs, with this situation and looking forward, we have a great opportunity to not be inside of a box, but to be able to look out, to create our own box, to do different things. Just to imagine trying something different. But housing is important. Transportation is lock, step, and barrel with housing. So we have to have a great transportation. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Let's bring back the baseball discussion. Do you support the community efforts to keep the Rays in Tampa Bay? And if elected, what is your vision for financing a ballpark if Hillsborough County is the ultimate preferred location? Councilman, go first on that one.
So Tampa's history goes way back when it comes to baseball. Babe Ruth hit his longest home run where the University of Tampa's at, the New York Yankees, the Cincinnati Reds, so many people coming through here. Right across the street, we have the Yankees complex. The question of baseball is, if you look at Raymond James, when there was a discussion of the Bucks in the 90s, if they were going to leave or come back, and then a stadium was built, that was done by sales tax. The thing is, regarding financing, my concern is going back to housing, going back to transportation. We have issues that are critical and must come before investments in baseball. People are being priced out of their homes, whether it's rental, whether it's home values in general. I would put housing above everything, transportation before looking at financing a stadium. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Ms. Lockett?
I'm sorry to ask again.
That's
I was
okay.
distracted with trying to get water.
On keeping the Rays in Tampa Bay, do you support keeping them in Tampa Bay? And if they decide to locate in Hillsborough County, what would be your suggestion for financing a ballpark?
Oh, that's a tough one. I support the Rays being in Tampa Bay, but we have so many other issues that we're dealing with housing and the lack of transportation. That's a big bill that needs to be discussed in regards to them staying. building a new stadium and so forth, when we have people that's being evicted, losing their homes, and the lack of affordability with housing. I support the raise staying. It's worth the conversation. But in regards to what's important, we have a lot of important issues in regards to housing and transportation that would take precedence over, to be honest, that. Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit more about that financial stewardship. You talked a little bit, both of you, about your priorities for financial stewardship. Talk more about what the order of your priorities and what you would like to see. Everybody thinks budgets are easy when it's their project, but when you have to balance limited tax dollars with the different polling priorities, how would you balance that, and why are you good financial stewards? Ms. Lockett, start with that.
I think with the way things are right now, we tried to pass a transportation bill, it didn't work, right? So now we have to look at public, private, state, federal partnerships. With housing, the same thing. We can't do it by ourselves, so that will force us to step outside of the box that we're in and create other avenues. So in regards to being a good steward financially, you know, how are we creative to partner with others that we may have not looked at and partnered with before? And how do we bring them into the fold to have that conversation to support our endeavors?
Very good.
So we have the general budget, the general fund, and then we have CRAs, which are special taxing districts in the city of Tampa, where money from those districts can only be spent in those areas. What's good about that, when we talk about transportation, is the streetcar that goes from Ybor City into downtown. Those are in CRAs. We can look at CRA money to possibly expand the streetcar. When we mentioned earlier about the money that was collected from All for Transportation, that's up in Tallahassee, how could we utilize that here? I know there was limitations. Couldn't go to transportation, but it can go to roads. We can use that to pave our roads. We can use that to build our sidewalks. Also, with the general fund, each year I think we need to allocate more money to building sidewalks to try to catch up on the backlog that we have and try to scrutinize every dollar that we can, along with state and federal funding that we can try and match up with.
Okay. You both have that opportunity for one statement to our legislature on what to do with the $600+ million that was collected for transportation. What would you say to them? Ms. Lockett, go ahead.
We need our money. You know, it's taxpayer money, right? Tampa put it on the ballot. People voted on it, agreed on it, and $600 million was collected. So I think that there's an overreach, again, with the state in holding our money. And I think that, you know, once we get the money back, if we have the opportunity to get the money back, I think that it's very important that community engagement is involved in regards to how they spend the money, because it is taxpayer money. But, you know, the simple statement is that we need our money back, and we need to be the stewards of that money and how we're going to spend that money.
Very good. Councilman Maniscalco.
So what I would say is, if the money can only be allocated to paving roads, let's say just say paving roads, we get so many complaints about the quality of our roads, and everybody wins. And I'll tell you why. People want to see something for their hard-earned tax dollar. The money has been collected, it's allocated, it's good for everybody. We as a city council can show we are putting that money to good use. The state representatives, state senators that cover the same areas that we cover can say to their constituents, look, we're putting that money to good use. It's not being thrown away. So the money is ours. The people voted for it, but at least let us do something with it. If it's going to be paving our roads, building our sidewalks so our kids can walk safely to school, build crosswalks, whatever it is, people will see something for their money. And if that's the case, we should be able to get it back and allocate it wisely.
Very good. Okay, and our last question, talking about the Tampa Bay Chamber and how we want to work closely and be a resource for our government partners and all the issues you work on and important to our members. Can you commit to provide updates to the Chamber and our members regularly seek input the business community if elected. And Councilman, we'll start with you on this.
Thank you very much. I always believe in building bridges, relationships, friendships, and I think communication is key. We lose a lot by not communicating. There's a lot of misunderstanding without communicating. And building those partnerships and relationships and friendships are key, because you hear from us as elected officials, we hear from you as the business community. It's very important. And when we work together, we grow together and we succeed together.
Very good. Ms. Lockett?
Ditto. I believe in collaboration. I think that what makes an individual or a company great is collaborating, right? You have to build partnerships with others in order for you to be great, because you can't do it by yourself. So, and we're not the experts. So if it's an extended arm that we have with the chamber, that would be great, because you're giving us the business aspect of it. So of course, yes, I would continue and build on that. And I think that with that, how do we expand and bring others in so that they can understand what goes on with the chamber? Because a lot of people may not understand it. So how do we build that avenue to make it a collective conversation to bring everybody in? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, now we'll move to the closing comments from our candidates. Councilman Maniscalco, you have 1 minute for your closing comment.
Thank you very much, not only for inviting me here, but for allowing me to serve you these last 8 years on the City Council. I've been serving in a district seat. We're actually in the district that I serve and represent, and I'm running citywide. So I can represent everybody in the city of Tampa, but my focus is going to be on the parts of the city that have been ignored, that time has forgotten, that have been neglected. So as we talk about Tampa being this next great city, we are on the edge. We are right there. But I want to make sure that we lift up all communities. It's not about gentrifying. It's about investing. It's about equity. It's about lifting everybody up so everybody gets to enjoy in that success of our city. My name is Guido Maniscalco. Election day is April 25th. I sincerely ask for your support and for your vote. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Lockett?
Thank you. I want to thank the Chamber for and others for this invite. I have the history of standing for what is right and speaking out against what's wrong. And most of the issues that I stood for didn't really personally affect me, but I did it, right? And I think that when we sit silent, that means that we agree with it. I keep hearing, seeing, and reading Tampa is the greatest city to live in. So all communities should feel that way, not just a few or the new. I want to bring people back to politics. When we know better, we do better. We should be our brother's keeper. And I want to continue to be the keeper, because at the end, it's all about the people. My name is Robin Lockett. I want to be your councilwoman, council member, your next council member. Oh, I'm sorry. I want to be your next council member. I appreciate the time. VoteRobinLockett.com. Thank you.
All right, Robin Lockett and Guido Maniscalco, thank you both very much for being here and your time. Let's thank our candidates for District 2. We appreciate you being here. You can exit, and we'll ask our next race, the candidates for District 3, to go ahead and join us up on stage. This is Janet Cruz and Councilman Lynn Hurtak. As they make their way up to the stage, I want to remind everyone, each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide an introductory statement, and then at the end they'll have 60 seconds for their closing statement. Responses to each question must be answered within a 1-minute time frame. Chris James in the front is our timekeeper, doing an excellent job. He's chairman of the Chamber's Transportation Council, and he has a yellow card that he will show you when you have 20 seconds left to answer the question, and a red card to show you when you have 10 seconds left, so please wrap up your thought at that time. And candidates, are we ready?
Yes.
Great, let's get started. Ms. Cruz, you have 2 minutes for your introduction.
And I want to thank you, Bob, and I want to thank your partners and the members. I am a member of the South Tampa Chamber, the Greater Tampa Chamber, and the West Shore Alliance. I have been for a long time, and I find all of those entities important. And I am here today because I want to tell you a little bit about myself, if I have a few minutes, to convince you that I'm the best choice in the seat. I served for 8 years in the legislature and then went on to serve 4 years in the Senate. Very proud and feel very privileged for the work that I did there. And I'm home, and I want I'd like to serve more now on the city council. I'm very, very proud to be chosen by the Tampa police officers with their endorsement, and the Tampa firefighters have endorsed me. And just this week, the Tampa Bay Times once again re-endorsed me as their pick for this seat. Equality Florida has also chosen me. Their statewide LGBTQ community has endorsed me, and I am here because we are on the precipice of greatness in this city. It's a wonderful city. I was born in Ybor City. I've lived here all my life, and I've watched great changes. But this city is very, very different than it was even 5 years ago. We have to take a look at smart growth. We have to maintain what we're seeing in neighborhoods. You know, when I'm walking in neighborhoods, what's important in one neighborhood is very, very different from the next neighborhood. One neighborhood will tell me I'm worried about my children, and I'm worried about the fact that they won't be able to live or buy a home in Tampa. And then I talk to a different neighborhood, and they're very worried about the surface roads and resurfacing and bicycle safety. So the issues are different, and we have to remember that we're all one Tampa. And you know, if you take a look at that 20-year vision, Bob, there are so many things that I'm
Yep,
sorry.
Time's up. Okay. All right. Councilwoman Hurtak, you have 2 minutes for your introduction.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming out tonight. We absolutely appreciate the opportunity to reach so many people. Basically, I am running again for my seat because I am the most qualified for the position. I have spent at least 7 years now working within the city in my own different way. I started out as a neighborhood leader with Old Seminole Heights. I served on the board of trustees, and then as a vice president. I went in front of council many times to talk about land use issues. From there, I was appointed to the city's Charter Review Commission, which is the city's constitution. So I have gone over and know the city's constitution, its charter, back and forth. I served with several other current council members. After that, Mayor Jane Castor twice appointed me to the Variance Review Board, which is another land use board. So I spent 2.5 years really focusing on land use and learning about land use in the city. And then, of course, I was appointed to city council. And the 1 year I've spent on council learning more and more about all of these issues, I believe that my background has absolutely helped me in this seat and will continue to help me going forward.
Very good. And that's my mistake. I have not been saying that at the end of the time. We couldn't afford a blowhorn, so we have a bell when time is absolutely up. Okay, moving on. Talk about the vision for the city. Given the direction of Tampa government, would you say things are on the right course, and what specific changes would you advocate for? Councilwoman Hurtak.
Absolutely, I think our city is on the right course. Government, we are doing phenomenal things. We are working hard to fix some of the things that we haven't fixed. One of the biggest problems that we've had, the pipes program, the stormwater, these are issues that other cities in the state aren't considering. We are far forward thinking. In addition to that, we are working on our housing issues. We're working on drawing business here. We're not even having to work on that. Businesses are coming to us. So how do we work on putting all of that together? The mayor and the administration are doing a phenomenal job with that.
Okay, very good. Ms. Cruz?
I would say that I think we're on the right track, and I think that we certainly are experiencing what I would call some growing pains. We were what I call an undervalued market for a long time, and corporations and developers are rushing into this city and trying in their way to make this city even better. What we have to do is continue on the path that we are now, which includes smart growth. We spoke about middle housing. We spoke about affordable housing, and that is where, that's the area that we should really, really be focused on. And we need to be able to go after those dollars in Washington and those dollars in Tallahassee, because every single city is going after their share of the dollars, and I don't think that we are doing a good enough job at that. That's where my experience and expertise will help.
All right, very good. Let's talk about congeniality among city council. We have a question from Maddie Velasco, a member of Emerging Leaders of Tampa Bay. And Maddie's question is, the relationship between members of the council has been strained at times. How will you work with all of your elected colleagues for the city to deliver for the citizens of Tampa? Ms. Cruz, go first on that one.
Well, I think it's no secret, and thanks, Maddie, for the question, that some of these city council meetings get to be contentious and downright silly at times. And the people are speaking. We see changes on the council in this last election, and we'll see more changes on the council in this next election, because the city wants their leaders to be able to work together and accomplish our goals and our missions. And we cannot allow city council to be hijacked by political theater. It's immature and it's wrong. That's why you should take a look at statesmen and people who know how to work across the aisle with one another to make projects work. I brought $18 million home to HCC for this program, the Allied Healthcare building. It was quite an achievement. Money home for Moffitt. You have to work together, and that's working across the aisle. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Hurtak, Councilwoman Hurtak.
We have different minds. All of us are a little bit different on council. There are 7 of us, and we have 7 distinct personalities. The thing you have to know about council is that, unlike state officials, we're not allowed to talk to each other outside of chambers. We can't discuss issues. We can't debate what we want to do about housing or those things. All of that has to be done in the public sphere, right in the from the dais with cameras on us. So, do we have discussions where we disagree on things? Absolutely. Would those discussions be better done behind closed doors? I don't think so. I think the public has a right to know where people are coming from and how they all start. So while we can disagree, I think we all end up working together to do what's best for the city. Disagreements haven't stopped us from moving forward with a lot of different things, including the $50 million we were able to put toward affordable housing this year, which was a grand achievement, more money than we've ever put toward affordable housing before.
Good timing. Okay, next question. We're going to talk about development. Do you support the elimination of parking minimums for developers? Why or why not? Councilwoman Hurtak, can you go first on that one?
Yes, I do support getting rid of parking minimums, but I think it depends on where. It's kind of like everything else. Do I support taking away exclusionary zoning? In some areas, yes. There are some areas that does not work. And the great thing about the city of Tampa is there are neighborhoods that are already saying, oh, please, we want this. So let's start with them. Let's start with these neighborhoods that want parking minimums. Downtown is a great example. We just actually passed some parking minimum restrictions in downtown, the downtown business core. I know other neighborhoods surrounding the downtown core want the exact same thing. So let's start there. Let's expand it from there and see how it goes. But the problem with parking minimums is we can't have parking minimums without more transportation. And those two things go hand in hand. So if we can work toward better transportation, parking minimums across the city become more palatable.
Very good. Okay, Ms. Cruz.
Thank you. I tend to agree with everything that Councilwoman Hurtak said, and the fact that what may work in one neighborhood doesn't work in another. We really should be one Tampa. And when we're talking about additional or accessory dwelling, or perhaps duplexes or triplexes and that middle housing, neighbors are worried about the parking on the streets. And in Los Angeles, where one of my kids lives, it's an issue. It really is an issue to see the parking on the streets. But there are folks that are willing to there are neighborhoods that are saying exactly what Councilwoman Hurtak said. you know, we need help. We need affordable housing. And if it's the inconvenience of a couple additional cars on the streets, then we'll take it. So I agree that we should start out in areas that are begging for it and move forward.
All right, let's talk about workforce housing. Cities nationwide are grappling with the housing shortage, especially a shortage of attainable housing. Tampa is no different. Many believe that the best way to address this crisis is via dense infill development along public transportation corridors. Do you share that vision with Tampa's growth? And if so, why? If not, why not? Councilman Hurtak, you go first on that one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's actually exactly where we should be putting development on transit corridors. Right now, we're looking at, not only do we need to look at land development code, we need to look at future land use. Right now, we have all of these future land use changes coming in front of council, and a lot of them are on transit corridors. Why? Why haven't we already redone this? So it's one fewer step for developers to reach the ability to put more density. The problem right now is it's so hard for developers to do so that you have to be a really big developer. We aren't providing enough opportunity with redoing the code, redoing future land use, so that some smaller developers can actually come in and have a chance to develop along those same transit corridors.
Thank you. Ms. Cruz.
Yes, fully supportive. And I think we also need to take a look at some of the lots, some of the properties that we both in the city and the county own, and take that to make affordable housing. And we have to go up, high rises. We have to create density in these affordable housing units, density so that we can provide for many, many people, not just a few. And I also want to mention too that when we talk about some of this and this density, you know, the answer is not a rent subsidy. The answer really is to help people with money to buy a home, because that is how someone who is from a family like mine can create some generational wealth. So that's the direction we should head there also.
Okay, very good. Again, on transportation, we talked about the Hillsborough County Transportation Referendum that was defeated last November. What should our city, county, and region do next to find dedicated funding source for transportation? Ms. Cruz, you go first on that one.
Thank you. Again, it's about going after those dollars. Let me see. I think there are 200 cities, and I forget the numbers, but there are cities, everyone is in Tallahassee begging for their share of the dollars. In D.C. begging for their share of the dollars. I've never seen a council member in 13 years in Tallahassee lobbying for these dollars, but I see lots of other ones, lots of other city council members and county commissioners. So we have to go after more of the dollars. We have to work harder on the grant money. We did some things like close the loophole for sidewalks, but we have to go over this money. We have to go after this $600 million that we were held hostage. It is a political prisoner in Tallahassee, and it's being used again for that good old political theater. And it makes me really angry when I think about how we agreed to tax ourselves. It's actually a double taxation because we already pay money for transportation, but we voted to tax ourselves again, and the state took it away from us on a technicality. Sorry.
All right. Councilwoman Hurtak, your response on that one?
I agree with pretty much what everyone has said before us, and with Ms. Cruz, that we need the money back. It's our money. But basically what the state has decided, the last I heard, is that they want to refund the dollars to individual people, which I can't imagine the amount of time, effort, energy, and money it's going to cost to do that. If we do get that money back, we're looking at about $200 million of it. And the state has also said that we can't use it for transportation. Before they decided they wanted to give it back to the taxpayers, they said we couldn't use it for transportation. So I don't know right now that there's an appetite at the state level for transportation, but there's absolutely an appetite at the federal level. And the feds have done a phenomenal job of putting money straight to the cities. We actually just got a $20 million grant to improve sidewalks and crosswalks. And that came straight from the federal government. So we can work with the federal government to get those type of dollars, but in terms of what we can do for transportation, I would like to start seeing the city pay into the amount for bus fares. That's kind of what I would like to start seeing. Make buses free.
All right, next, let's talk about supplier diversity in the city. We have a question from Grace Masada, a member of Leadership Tampa alumni. Grace asks, how will you encourage policies in the city's procurement process to encourage inclusive practices? Councilwoman Hurtak, can you take that first?
Sure. We actually have a really robust program for small and minority businesses to do just that. In fact, it's one of the things that when we're talking in our weekly meetings, preparing for council, that we're looking for a percentage. How many contracts were able to be small and minority owned. Especially, I'm always looking also for local businesses. Another thing that we've just started doing, which I think is really awesome, is say there's one contract, they're giving it to multiple vendors, which allows more small businesses to participate. And what I like about that is if we need, say it's for repaving areas. Okay, well, if one company's busy, there are two others that they can call on, and so they give a third to each company. And I think continuing to work on that is really helpful, and then actually going out and encouraging minority and small businesses to participate or to be able to learn how to request.
As you see, we're asking complex questions and to give an answer in 60 seconds. It's not easy. So Ms. Cruz, your turn.
Yes. I do agree that we do a good job, but we can do better. And I think that if anyone has tried to apply to become a minority contractor, it is a long, arduous process, and it's frustrating. We've helped so many people when I was a senator do the application, and it's frustrating. The good part about it is, the good news is, once you get approved in the city, then you're approved in the county. If you're approved in the county, you get approved in the city. But we need help on that program. We need help to, if we're talking about a family that runs a tile company that works themselves to the bone every week, and we're going to ask them to do this paperwork and go through this process, then they need help. So we need to make the process easier for minority contractors to participate.
Terrific, thank you. Guess what? A question on baseball. Do you support keeping the Rays in Tampa Bay? And what is your vision for financing a ballpark if Hillsborough County is the ultimate preferred location? Ms. Cruz, you go first on that one.
Well, of course, in my perfect world, I would want to see baseball in Tampa. I mean, we are Tampa Bay, and I would like to see us considered a city on the rise, and certainly not a city in decline. And people judge it by the strangest things, but one of which are sports teams. And I support baseball in Tampa, but we have to take a look at what kind of money and where the obligation lies. Public-private partnerships, and we haven't seen enough information on the money and what it would take. So as much as I would love to see baseball in Tampa, I think I would be foolish if I said yes without taking a look at the numbers and what it would cost the taxpayers.
Okay, Councilwoman Hurtak?
Absolutely. I think baseball should be in Tampa. It's just quite frankly the better location. We, again, have the history. Baseball is in our blood. But yeah, how do we pay for it? Because we have real, tangible problems, and people need help with those. From my understanding, it's the county that would provide the majority of the money for this. So they're the ones that kind of have to figure out the funding. But if the stadium's in the city, then we do have a part in that. And what I wouldn't do, again, like Mr. Clendenin said before, is do something like the stadium funding across the street for Ray J. Not acceptable. So maybe using bed taxes, something that we can't use otherwise. But other than that, I would certainly want to see a royalty sharing, because that's pretty much the only way I could be guaranteed to support a stadium, is if we had some revenue sharing.
Okay, now our final question. In working with the Chamber, obviously we want to be seen as a partner with you to make our city the best it can be. Can you commit to provide updates to the Chamber and the Chamber's membership regularly and seek input and work with the business community if elected? Ms. Cruz, can you go first on that?
Well, of course I would, and I think that the fact that I am a member of many chambers and the Alliance speaks to that. I believe in business and good business in Tampa. I believe that, like I said, working across the aisle with good partners is very important. So the answer is simply stated yes.
Okay, very good. Councilwoman Hurtak.
Yes, and when I joined council, one of the first things I did was either reply to the invitation that Chamber sent out or reached out. So I have done tours with both the West Shore Alliance of their area, talking about issues that are interesting to them, did a tour of the Downtown Partnership, have met with the other chambers, and am happy and to do anything possible to make sure that our business community is connected to government, because we all work together. We aren't going to be a growing city without the businesses that are already here and those that are coming. So we have to make sure that the business chambers and people who are coming and the government, they have to be able to see that we all can work together and that we do work together. So I'm absolutely continuing to keep the door open and my, so yes.
Terrific. All right, thank you both candidates very much. Councilwoman Hurtak, you have 1 minute for your closing comment.
Again, I am someone who actually has years of experience in this particular job. I have worked with different areas of the city for the last 7 years. My focuses for the election and for the next 4 years are absolutely going to be affordable housing, number one. Number two, transportation, and then of course, sustainability, which is keeping our water supply clean and not putting wastewater into the aquifer. In addition to, we're working on garbage reduction and things like that. Again, all having to do with sustainability. If you want to know more about me, you can go to my website, lynnhurtak.com, and reach out, and I'd be happy to talk to you about any of the issues. But I'm asking for your vote and your support on April 25th.
Very good. Ms. Cruz.
Thank you, and I think you know me. You know my 13 years experience in both the House and the Senate. And once session ended, I came home and I started a job fair for 13 years in a row. Our job fair grew to over 100 employers, of which 1,000 people come through the door every year. Our only requirement is that you are hiring, and people could walk out of there with a job if they met the qualifications. So that's about doing more than just my job. It's about serving my constituency. Then I ran a bill called Get the Lead Out, and that bill was to ensure that children in schools that were built before 1986 had lead pipes. So I tried to run a bill that would say you must put filters on the water fountains. When I couldn't get the bill passed, I came home and raised $120,000 through the generosity of businesses in Tampa and put the filters in the schools in Hillsborough County. April 25th is our day to vote. The turnout is probably going to be terrible, so please prove us wrong. Please vote and tell your neighbors and your families to vote and exercise probably one of the greatest rights we have in America. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you both very much. Let's thank our candidates. The candidates for District 3. And now I'd like to invite the candidates for District 6 to join me on stage. That's Councilman Charlie Miranda and Hoyt Prindle. Welcome to the stage, gentlemen. And as you will see, once you're on stage, each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide an introduction and 60 seconds for closing. Responses to each question must be answered in 1 minute or less. Chris is doing yeoman's job of being our timekeeper in the front. He's also chairman of the Chamber's Transportation Council. He's got a yellow card when you have 20 seconds left in your time, and a red card when you have 10 seconds left for your time. So, gentlemen, thank you both for being here. We greatly appreciate your time. And if we're ready to get started, Councilman Miranda, 2 minutes for your introduction, sir.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being here this evening. I want to thank the 8 sponsors in the back, along with the Chamber, that did a fantastic job. I've been running for office mainly my whole life when I look back. I'm being upfront with you guys. I don't hold it back. Something that I've always desired to do, and I think we've done a very good job. I started running for office, and I lost my first 2 elections. Why? Well, because they were in the county. And it wasn't until then that you learn something, not when you win, but when you lose, when you don't get enough votes. And I started becoming more involved. And I realized that I got my butt kicked in the county, but I did very well in the city. So in 1974, I ran for city council. But let me go back to 72, something that more likely people don't know. 1972, when I was running for county commissioner, I went to give the guy a check, and he looked at me kind of, huh? And I said, is something wrong with the check? He said, no. And I said, you mean to tell me if I didn't have the check, I couldn't run for office? And he says, yes. I said, well, let me have the check back. And I tore it up and I put it in my pocket. I don't think most of you know this, but that instant, I went to court and I filed a lawsuit, a federal lawsuit against the governor and everybody in office. And they told me I was crazy. Well, I already knew that. But then when you go back, and we had to get 3,000 registered signatures within 3 days. We got 4,200. The judge ruled in our favor. They appealed to the Court of Appeals. The state did. A year later, the judge said he won. They appealed to the United States Supreme Court. You can look Miranda versus Florida, 1974, see what happened.
All right. Mr. Prindle.
Well, good evening. My name is Hoyt Prindle, and I was one of the first people to file to run for any city council seat because our city is facing some huge challenges, and we need results-oriented leadership to start solving those challenges, because ultimately that's what you, the voters, should have, not just politicians that go and talk, but politicians that actually get things done. Like many of you here and that are watching on TV, I'm not a native to Tampa, but once I came here, I fell in love with the place and decided to stay. And as Tampa is becoming a world-class city, unfortunately, we're facing some challenges from a lack of affordable and attainable housing and a lack of transportation mobility options. And the next city council must be laser-focused on fixing these problems. I've been fortunate enough in my private sector career, whether that be solving complex problems as a lawyer, or whether that be in my time as a commercial lender where I was an assistant vice president and helped deliver $140 million in SBA-approved funds to local businesses in the area. I'm somebody that has a record of getting results. I also have a record of getting results in a public service capacity. I've served on the T-BARTA Citizens Advisory Committee and the Transportation Planning Organization Citizens Advisory Committee. And the reason we have equity in our transportation planning is because of a resolution I got passed 3 years ago during COVID. And listen, I like Charlie. We get along very well, but ultimately in an election, you have choices. You have to decide what kind of vision you want for the future, and you have to decide on policy issues. And this election is not about where Tampa has been, but it's about where Tampa's going. One of the biggest differences between Charlie and I is Charlie's been one of the biggest supporters of Pure on city council, and I've been endorsed by the Sierra Club, La Gaceta, Creative Loafing, and others because I'm against Pure. And as we move forward, Pure is not a good project because it is environmentally dangerous and it's fiscally irresponsible. The next council needs to work collaboratively and collectively together to ensure that we can fix these big problems. I have a record of that. I'll be an independent voice on city council, and I'll work with anybody I can to solve these big problems as we move forward. Thank you.
Okay, this question is somewhat philosophical, but why do you want to serve on city council? It's a hard job to serve in public office. So what is your why for wanting to serve? Mr. Prindle, you go first on that one.
Well, thank you for the question. My why is that public service is important, and if we don't have good people in public service, we're not going to have the good government that we deserve. Ultimately, I'm doing this because I want to see that the quality of life in Tampa is strong, and we have a good future going forward. And it's very easy to sit on the sidelines and always complain about the problems facing the city and always say that not enough is being done. But it's another thing to actually take a step forward and do something about it. And that's why I commend Charlie for his many years of service to the community and for everybody that's running for these offices, because ultimately it's always easier to complain than it is to solve problems. But I ran for city council because I want to be part of the solution to fixing these problems, to fixing the housing crisis, to fixing the transportation crisis. We need that kind of laser-focused, energetic leadership to fix these problems. And that's really why I ran, is the city's got big problems, and I want to be a part of the solution in fixing them.
Very good. Councilman Miranda.
Thank you very much. I've had the pleasure of working for 5 different mayors, and I've always thought about the city first, numero uno. So let's go back. Mayor Poe, what happened there? The city downtown, the whole city was in shambles. Nothing. There was nothing moving in. There was hardly any jobs available for young people. And you know what? Mayor Poe was a genius at doing things. And Mayor Poe got the public involved, and he built a quad block, which is the 2 big buildings right there on Jackson Street between Florida and Tampa Street, which are still there, and they're still like they're brand new. That was built in the late 70s. Let's go back to other things. Charlie Miranda hasn't been asleep at the wheel. Let me tell you about the quad block. I'll tell you now about the clinic. I started the clinic for Mayor Iorio, and it's working. We've been saving $1 million a year. So I can tell you this, the city is saving $1 million a year, but our citizens that work for the city go to the clinic and get excellent care.
All right, next let's talk about something we talked about with some of the other races, the relationship between members of the council, sometimes contentious. How would you work with your colleagues to deliver the best for the citizens in Tampa? Councilman Miranda, you go first on that one.
I'm there. I just see what's happening there, and I'm appalled at times on the little things that happen. So I sit back, and I don't try to be favor for the administration or against the administration, but when somebody says something, I have to always say, trust but verify. What did they say? How do they mean it? One time they said, we're 200 police officers short. I go ask the administration, no, we're 40 short. So I said, 200, it's 160 difference. That's 4 times the amount. So what is wrong with us? City council has to have all the facts that they gather before they open what? The mouth. Find out what you have. I trust people. I believe what they say. However, I'm smart enough to look at body, and when they say something, I study the person. What they say, I study most. What they don't say.
Mr. Prindle.
Well, as the saying goes, politics ain't beanbag. It's contentious by nature because you're dealing with big issues where often people don't agree. And I'm a litigator as a lawyer, so I'm used to constantly dealing with parties and people that don't agree. But I think it starts in terms of making sure council functions well by having professionalism, taking care of what you can control in yourself, treating people with respect, treating people with courtesy, treating people with dignity. And when it comes to the differences between us, the people on council, it should be focused not on personalities, but strictly on policy. If you keep the differences focused on policy and you treat people with respect, and remember that these are people that they have families and they have friends and they have spouses and they have anxieties and worries and cares and concerns just like you do, and have a little bit of decency and humanity, then I think even though at times things will be contentious, you can have a collective body that works well together and gets things done.
All right, let's move on to workforce housing. We have a question from Michael Mano, a member of Emerging Leaders of Tampa Bay. And his question is, locating affordable housing continues to be a challenge for many first-time homebuyers and young professionals. What are some ideas that you would like to enact to address these issues? Mr. Prindle, can you go first on that one?
Well, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get more housing online faster. And that's why I've been talking throughout this entire campaign about reforming the comprehensive plan and land development code so that we can speed up the process of development and get housing online more quickly, while also protecting certain core urban neighborhoods that we have. We also need to have more flexibility in housing options, like having triplexes, duplexes, accessory dwelling units. We need to focus on bonus density programs. We've got to take a collective approach at reforming our entire zoning code to speed up the process, to get it away from Euclidean zoning that separates by use and get more of a form-based code. That'll be the best way that we can move forward on that. I'd have also advocated for enhancing the Dare to Own the Dream program, which helps first-time home buyers. And then there are other programs we need to make work more efficiently, such as the bonus density affordable housing incentive program. It's going to take a lot of work, but we can do it and we can make it better.
Very good. Councilman Miranda, same question.
We're looking out to have what they call ADUs, which is a lot and a house on it already. And if you have enough room to put a smaller house in the back, 600, 800 square feet, so someone else can move in part of that section, either the side of the house or the back of the house. That's one area. But we have a problem, and the problem is that also the land, we're running out of land for any kind of building. So we have a problem in the land ability to buy, and when we buy land, it's so high that it makes it almost unaffordable. Why is that? Because the people started moving into this area and made it so affordable for them because they come from New York, Boston, and other states, and when they sell something for $200 million, they come here, they got a fantastic deal on it. Thank you very much. They have a fantastic deal on what they got, and they pocket the rest. We have a lot of people, that's the price we're paying for prosperity.
All right, now let's talk about transportation. As you know, the recent Hillsborough County tax referendum was defeated. What should our city, county, and the region do next to find a dedicated source for funding for our transportation problems? Councilman Miranda, you go first on that one.
Well, thank you very much. I believe that, I don't know exactly how that funding is going to come back, but it's going to come back with some areas that they want you to spend it on, not what we want to spend it on. If we could spend it on transportation and affordable housing, I think those are the two things that could help this whole region. We can't leave anybody behind. Transportation, the problem is, when back in the 70s, when the feds came over and wanted to take over, Tampa had a bus system. I don't know how many of you know that. It was on Cleveland Street. It was called Tampa Transit. However, when we gave that up to the state and somebody had to take a ride from here to Waimama for a quarter, that's what's happening in transportation. We must have rapid transit in one form or another. I was one that started the streetcar with Mayor Greco back in 98 or 99, I forget what year it was. And it was finally working now to a successful area.
Mr. Prindle?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is push to have every 2 years All for Transportation come back on the ballot until it passes, because despite the judicial activism that happened in Tallahassee, that particular funding source is one of the few ways that we can get dedicated funding for our public transportation that we control. We as in the citizens of this city and this county. Ultimately, though, due to politics and other things, that's not going to be a realistic option in the short term. So as others have mentioned, we're really going to have to work with our partners at the state level to ensure that the state is helping to fund public transportation here locally. You know, people say, oh, well, the state's not going to help us. Well, that's not true. Orlando has Sunrail, because the state legislature passed a bill that came in and funded and built Sunrail. We need to work those relationships here to do that. As Charlie mentioned with the $600 million, unfortunately the governor has said that he won't allow any of it to go to public transit. So really I would agree with Councilman Maniscalco. We need to put that towards repaving roads here locally because it can't go to transit sources.
Well, let's start with Mr. Prindle. What would be your message to the legislature on that $600 million plus that's sitting in Tallahassee?
My message to the legislature would be it's our money. The citizens of our county passed a self-tax to fund that money in a certain way, and the legislature ought to give us back that money in accordance with the tax that the voters of this county passed, which means 45% of it goes to HART, and 55% of it goes not to widening freeways or tearing down our urban neighborhoods, but to safety improvements on our roadways and to repaving roads and fixing intersections. That's what I would tell them to do. They're not going to do that, of course. So ultimately, again, I think we do need to go to Tallahassee, and we do need to work with them to try to make sure we get as much money for the city of Tampa out of those funds as possible, because otherwise it's going to go down to East County and it's going to go down to South County, and we're still going to have roads in West Tampa that aren't paved.
Okay. Councilman Miranda, same question.
This is a classic example of losing your home rule by people in the legislature and the governor. If you give us the money, let the people, not only in this city, throughout the whole county, on how to do it and where to spend. The county knows what to do with it. Plant City knows what to do with it. City of Tampa knows what to do with it. But they're not going to give us the opportunity to do what we know we need. So instead of getting us together to facilitate and help us, all of us that live in this great Hillsborough County that we live in, the city of Tampa, we can't get what we need because the legislature won't let us do it. They give you the mandate, and you have to follow it. So sometimes you have to speak to your legislature, all of us, to find out what's really going on.
Very good. Let's talk now about the environment. It was mentioned earlier, the PURE project. PURE stands for Purify Usable Resources for the Environment. What are your thoughts on PURE, on the initiative, which is designed to determine how to best recycle up to 50 million gallons a day of reclaimed water from the city in an advanced wastewater treatment plant? Mr. Prindle, you go first on that one.
Well, thank you, Bob. And as I said, I'm against PURE. There are a couple problems with Pure. The first being is it's environmentally dangerous in its current form. We need to be very, very careful before we inject PFAS and other forever chemicals into our aquifer, because once that bell is rung, we can't unring it. The second part of the issue, again, comes down to fiscal responsibility. Due to a state mandate that says we have to do something with this treated wastewater by 2032, if we go forward with Pure, depending on what cost estimates you want to go with, you're talking about the city spending hundreds of millions of dollars to put forth this program, and again, potentially permanently harm its drinking water. We've got to do something different. We've got to work together collectively to find different solutions. And I would also say we need to go to the city and ask for the city to go back to the legislature and have them lobby to remove that legislation, because that's another example of bad legislation from Tallahassee that hurts our local community.
Councilman Miranda?
Thank you. I believe in science. I believe that science is what we need to look at everything that we do regarding the environment, no matter what it is. So when you look at water, it's very, very costly to do anything. And if you even went with Pure, it'd be 10 years before you even get a regulation that's going to give you the right to do it. I sit on the board of Tampa Bay Water. You know what they're looking at? To buy reclaimed water. Where do you think Pure comes from? Reclaimed water. The PFAS and the PFOs would all be cleaned out. This is not what I want. This is what the city of Tampa has to look for the next 20 years. We're mandated by law. We can make 82 million gallons a day of water on a daily average. We're hitting 81 million now. So what's going to happen in the future when you go over the 82? You need water within the next 20 years because we're growing population. Thank you.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about development. We have a question from Lee Bell, the CEO with the eBoard Chamber. Lee's question is, how important is it for the City Council to prioritize catalytic developments using CRAs and other new development tools to attract more private investment in the district? Mr. Prindle?
We need to do as much as we can to attract private development to come into the district, because we have a housing crisis. We have a housing crisis in District 6 and across the city. We do need to do that and be mindful, though, that a big chunk of District 6 in West Tampa is a historic community. And while we like growth and we celebrate growth, we don't want to bulldoze over our past just to add new housing units immediately. That's why I've been a big proponent of adding overlay districts in certain areas to ensure that when there is new development coming online, it fits in with the neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood. But yes, I do think the city needs to prioritize funds to get developers to come in and build the housing so we can fix this shortage. I would do it with CRA funds too. I commend the current council for having used CRA funds to push forward those priorities.
Very good. Councilman Miranda, same question.
We have been working that with their CRAs. I believe there's 7 or 8 CRAs in the city. And what they do is, once the table here is a set price for the city, they get that. Anything above that, as it goes up in taxes, stays within that CRA. And therefore, you see Ybor City has 2 of them, in fact, in Ybor City, and you see enormous things that are happening because that money stays in that district. There's a district in downtown, there's one, and look what's happening downtown, but revitalized to the point that you say, what's something here that's new every day? When I got elected, the sidewalks were picked up at night because nobody was walking on them. Now the sidewalks are clean every day because people are walking on them all over the place. Or what about the east side? The Waterside Street and all that, that's another CRA. And look what they've done there. You can't recognize Tampa from 8 years ago to now. It is impossible what's happened.
Okay, let's talk baseball. Why not? Do you support the efforts to keep the Rays in the Tampa Bay region? And how would you finance a ballpark if Hillsborough County is the ultimate location for that? Councilman Miranda, you go first on that one.
Well, when you said the word finance, I lost all my hair. But let me say this. A ballpark is going to cost about $1 billion with a B. So Major League Baseball wants it to come to Tampa, as I understand it. And the Rays, I think, maybe want to stay in St. Pete because they have what you call, development rights. But remember I said that table all the ways up? If they get that deal in Pine Island County, nobody can go to the game and they still make money. But what's happening today in sports, we're giving everything away. Use only one vote, and you're looking at them, that in 2006 said, no, I'm not going to vote for that contract. You know why? $2 million, anything outside the venue goes to them. You talk about rent control? 30 years, not one penny higher on the rent. What a country.
Ms. Prindle?
I'm absolutely supportive of keeping the Rays here, and I'd like to see them come to Tampa. It makes sense for them to be in Tampa. That's where the corporate support is. You can draw down people from Orlando. So we need to do what we can to keep the Rays here. With that said, when we talk about funding, and one of the questions for the earlier candidates was where would that funding come from? I would look to Mr. Sternberg to say, you're a billionaire, write a check, sir. You know, other stadiums have been privately financed. You know, the AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play, the Rams Stadium. These guys make plenty of money. There's private sources to fund it. We have so many funding concerns and issues where we lack funding, whether it be being able to build sidewalks or repave our roads, that it is to me, it's fiscally irresponsible for us to say we're going to put tax money into building a baseball stadium. Not to mention that if you look at studies that have been done throughout the country about this issue, the public investment never gets the same amount of money back in that they put out, and so it's just not a smart decision. Yes, we need to keep the Rays. Yes, Mr. Sternberg needs to pay for it.
All right, very good. Last question, we've asked each candidate, do you commit to provide updates to the Tampa Bay Chamber, work with the business community on all the issues you face as an elected official? Councilman Miranda, you're first on that one.
Of course we do. I think we fund part of this chamber downtown, and I think we fund other things with that happen to do with Craig Richards, who's Tampa Bay Economic Development Corporation. They do a fantastic job. Those are the ones that goes out, get people that have big companies and small companies that come to Tampa and relocate with jobs. The technology that's come to the city of Tampa is unbelievable because of these people. Let's go look at the other side. Santiago Corrada would visit Tampa Bay. Look what he's done with that operation. They bring people from all over the world. That's what we have now, something we didn't have before. Tourists. The aquarium, 950,000 people went there last year. The zoo, 1.25 million people visit Zoo Tampa. We have gyms now we didn't have before. The aquarium, the zoo, different things that we didn't have before.
Oh, you were good. Okay, all right. Well, candidates, thank you both. I'm sorry, Ms. Prindle, go ahead.
So the answer is yes, absolutely. I commit to constantly working with the chamber and being involved with the chamber to make sure that this city continues to grow and continues to do the things that it needs to do, because you all, as business professionals or business owners, have the institutional knowledge of what makes your companies work and what helps make the economy work. There's almost no more important group than the chamber in terms of the benefits that this community has seen over the last 25 or 30 years. So I'll absolutely continue to work with you all and all of our community stakeholders to make sure that we're moving Tampa forward in a way that keeps our economy growing, but protects its unique heritage and is inclusive and equitable for everyone.
Very good. Well, candidates, thank you both very much for your time. I will now do closing comments. Mr. Prindle, you have 1 minute for your closing comment.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming today. As you probably saw, turnout was very low. It was only about 13%, and so kudos to all of you for taking time out of your evening to be informed about the issues facing this city. Again, I ran for office because we need results-oriented leadership that fixes our problems now. We don't have 4 years to wait to fix these problems. We don't have 8 years to wait. In the next 4 years, you're really talking about setting the path of the city for the next 20 and 30 and 40 years, and we need to start making those decisions now that fix the problem, because ultimately we don't want to end up like Los Angeles and other places where they kept kicking the can, they kept kicking the can, they kept kicking the can, and then by then it was too late and too expensive to fix a lot of these problems. This city has so much uniqueness and great history, and we're really at a great place where in the next 4 years we can make a difference. I have a record in the private sector of providing solutions-oriented leadership, and that's what I'll bring to Tampa City Council. I'll work tirelessly, collectively, and collaboratively with anyone and everyone I need to make this city a better place and improve our quality of life. Thank you.
Very good. Councilman Miranda, 1 minute.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate this conference that we had today. This meeting is very professional. All of you, the individuals, all the 8 sponsors that they had. Let me say this. I'll be the only candidate that has years of experience, not only on the 70s, but the 90s into the 2000s. I've been there, I've seen a lot, and I want to keep doing it at least one more time. I'm 28 years old backwards, 82. And let me tell you about me. I want to make sure that these things get done, from the Tampa Theater being saved, from the Marriott Hotel coming in. We were losing money in the convention center. We've solved that problem because a lot of things can happen after the Marriott came in. And environment. I'm the only elected official that's got an electric car, a hybrid, solar, 1 unit of water, and no grass. So I believe, I don't say anything I don't do. Thank you all very much for letting me be here with you this evening.
All right. Let's thank our candidates for District 6 being here. Thank you, gentlemen. This concludes tonight's City Council runoff debate presented by emerging leaders of Tampa Bay and Leadership Tampa alumni. I want to give special thanks to all of you again being here in the audience, as well as those streaming with 10 Tampa Bay. Remember, you can access the full debate contents anytime on 10 Tampa Bay Plus. Thank you once again to our candidates for your willingness. It's just as hard running for office, if not harder, than it is serving in office. Thank you to our Chamber and Business Association partners that are part of this event tonight. They've all been listed for the entire event. We really enjoy and value that partnership. Our advocacy initiatives are stronger because we all worked in a combined fashion. And thank you to Hillsborough Community College, Dale Mabry campus for hosting us tonight. They've done a great job. Now everyone, be sure to vote in the runoff election either by mail, early voting the week of April 17th to April 23rd, or show up on election day, April 25th. Thank you all very much for being here and for participating, and everyone have a good night. Special thanks to our timekeeper. That's a hard job.